Hello and good day. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Save the Second or their employers. This show offers commentary on the latest news associated with the NRA and Save the Second's endeavor to promote a strong, relevant, effective, and accountable NRA. Welcome to the Save the Second podcast, episode 3. Today is Sunday, September 8th, 2019. In this episode, we'll discuss NRA Board of Directors Marion Hammer's illegal loans, the NRA Board of Directors meeting, which is coming up in 6 days now, and more. Currently, I am solo. My name is Ron Carter. Hopefully, Mr. Pincus or perhaps Mr. Lander will be able to join us just a little bit later on. All of us at Save the Second are volunteers, and so many of those guys are out being parents today, especially with the upcoming week that we're looking at. We have so much going on just later this week. Oh my goodness, it's going to be an interesting one. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of shooting a lot. I was out with my friends Cole, Alex, Kalen, and Sean, and man, we blasted probably more so than 800 rounds. Well, I know I shot 500 at least, so we probably threw 1,000 projectiles or more. It was just a wonderful day. I live in Colorado Springs area, and we had some thunderstorms in the area, but thankfully that didn't affect us. And, you know, the Second Amendment is just near and dear to my heart. It's one of the reasons why I helped found Save the Second. You see, our rights are very much threatened right now, more so than ever. And the National Rifle Association of America has, unfortunately, terribly so, corruption, malfeasance, self-dealings, and problems that must be corrected. And of course, that's our endeavor at Save the Second, to promote a strong, relevant, effective, and accountable National Rifle Association of America. Oh my goodness. This past week, the first week of September, we had a few news stories come out that were, well, they took me by surprise. I was expecting more information perhaps on the ongoing lawsuits between the National Rifle Association of America and Ackerman McQueen. There's now 3 lawsuits and countersuits. So I was expecting that, but instead we found out that Marion Hammer has taken out loans, thanks to her nonprofit, the Unified Sportsmen of Florida. And it's drawing national attention because Florida Statute 617.0833 prohibits not-for-profit corporations like Unified Sportsmen's from loaning money to their directors or officers. This comes to us from the Florida Bulldog, who first reported that on September 6th. Oh my goodness. It says, quote, in this particular Florida statute, a loan made in violation of this section is a violation of the duty to the corporation of the directors or officers authorizing it or participating in it, the law says. The loans of charitable assets were approved by the group's board of directors. Oh my goodness. You can go and read more about that. Of course, last week we spoke in depth in episode 2 of Save the Second's podcast, spoke in depth on Marion Hammer's attack / solicitation for donations on, oh man, that was weird. That particular letter was attacking David Delaquila. Pardon me, David. Of course, that was pretty crazy because, well, we've never seen the NRA go after someone who wasn't threatening the Second Amendment. In this case, David Delaquila has a class action lawsuit, which, of course, you can go and read the context of that on our website, or even search for the class action lawsuit against the NRA on Google. We post about this particular subject with David Delaquila's being attacked by Marion Hammer, and now, of course, her the information, of course, that she has taken out illegal loans in the state of Florida. We reported that on our website, on our blog on September 7th. Now, interesting too, David Delaquila has been digging into the NRA bylaws, which, by the way, we're going to get into the bylaws here in just a little bit. I have the bylaws right beside me, so it's going to be interesting. But he cites in the NRA bylaws, Article 5, Section 5A. Why don't we look that up real fast? And by the way, you can find the NRA bylaws. If you're a member of the NRA, you can call up the Office of the Secretary and have them send you a copy, such as I did. One of the interesting things about that is this copy of the bylaws is from April 29th, 2017. This is not the most current version of the NRA bylaws, which is a little strange, to say the least. Now, in Article 5, Section, what was it? Section, oh my goodness, I'm losing it already. Got to go to Article 5 first. These are a bit convoluted too, so it's hard to read a few. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an expert in bylaws by any stretch of the imagination, but one with a little bit of time and a little bit of patience can decipher quite a bit from the bylaws, and you can learn more about your organization that you're a member of course, by reading the bylaws. Yeah, trying to find it though. Here we are. Article 5, Section 5. The title of this section is Compensation. A, no director or member of the Executive Council shall receive any salary or other private benefit unless specifically authorized by resolution of the Board of Directors or an authorized committee thereof, but all such persons shall be entitled to reimbursement for their expenses incurred on behalf of the association to such extent as may be authorized or approved by the Board of Directors. And you can go and read David Delaquila's email to Secretary John Frazier. He asked John Frazier, or rather, let me just read this to you. He cites this particular bylaw that I just read, and he says, I take this to mean that any payments made by the NRA to any director or director's company or organization should have a resolution on file which authorizes such payments. Please immediately forward to me copies of all such resolutions passed or in effect in the past 5 years, and include the minutes of the meetings in which these resolutions were passed. In other words, he's saying, I don't believe this happened. If Marion Hammer is receiving so much money, which we talked about a little bit on the last episode, she's receiving quite a bit, almost, well, I think it was over $250,000, $270,000 in the year of 2018 from the NRA. She's, to my knowledge, one of the only directors that has that, just being given to her and her organization, the Unified Sportsmen of Florida. But where was this authorized? Where did the Board of Directors say, wow, that's a great investment, we need to give her more money? And if this is true that she is taking out loans for herself, where was it at? In this particular article, it was explaining, it was in this article where she was, or where they were saying that through the tax filings, the loans were going to refinance and purchase real estate. Refinance and purchase real estate. And these were exceptionally low interest loans. I think one of them in 2017 was under 2%. Is that benefit being given to the rest of NRA members? Can I get a loan for $200,000 under 2%? Oh my gosh, please sign me up for that. Oh man, so if this is illegal in the state of Florida, she's looking at indictment. She's looking at being charged criminally. I wonder how the rest of the Board of Directors feels about Mrs. Hammer being indicted. It's exceptionally frustrating. Oh, let's go into the next article. This article came to us, this information came to us just earlier this week and we spoke about this a bit in last episode. If you haven't listened to the last episode, it was long, very sorry for that, but please go back and listen to it. If you would like to read this particular article that I'm about to explain to you, it's on our blog post from September 6th. Of course, our blog is at savethe2a.org. It was also reposted on AmmoLand from Rob Pincus. What we find is that the NRA Institute for Legislative Action's general counsel was let go. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. And now they have hired Wade Callender. I'm probably mispronouncing that. It's spelled with 2 L's. So Callender, maybe? Wade Callender. So he's been hired as the new deputy executive director and general counsel for the NRA's lobbying arm, the Institute for Legislative Action. That's great, right? Now, obviously, we have to have somebody fill that position, regardless of the person that was let go previously. And there's a lot to that, of course. But here's the problem. Mr. Wade, number one, has no apparent experience in politics or policy issues, nor does he have any ties to the firearms industry. In fact, his past job was working for a game company, Gearbox Software. That's right. You heard me right. So now the Institute for Legislative Action's general counsel and deputy executive director is a gamer. Really? I mean, we just I don't know. Did he design Red Dead Redemption 2 or something? Is a blockbuster hit? Was that what gave him qualifications to be hired in this position? I don't know. It gets worse, and this is just absurd. It gets worse. So Mr. Callender comes to the already troubled NRA while he is embroiled in a public legal dispute with his former employer that involves allegations of financial malfeasance and corporate irresponsibility. Wonderful. So beyond the fact that we have Wayne LaPierre as the CEO / vice president, executive vice president of the NRA, who has $274,000 in a few suits that was apparently embezzled through Ackerman McQueen, we now have this. So the guy driving the bus is accused of malfeasance. The guy he hired is accused of malfeasance. Where is the board of directors in this? Did the board of directors say, "Ooh, that's a great guy. He's been really shady in the past. He'll fit right in." What the heck? How does this make sense? Who approved this? What is going on in our NRA? I don't get it. Yeah. So, and there's a bit of hypocrisy here. Beyond that, Wade Callender, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Mr. Wade. Not sorry. He comes from an industry that previously Wayne LaPierre and others in the community have frequently attacked over the past decade, specifically from a company that produced violent video games. Okay, so sure enough, you can go check out the link. Wayne LaPierre has criminalized, or at least he's attacked violent video games as being perhaps an instigator or a contributing factor to mass murderers. Now, personally, I don't agree with that. To my recollection, there weren't violent video games in Nazi Germany, for example, right? So, take that with a grain of salt. But still, not only do we have these allegations of malfeasance and using your business as your own personal piggy bank, or in this case, our nonprofit organization as a piggy bank, we also have the fact that there's been a complete conflict of interest, and perhaps even hypocrisy that Wayne LaPierre saying, "Oh, these guys are to blame. They're video games are bad. I'm going to hire the guy that designed a lot of these video games. Great idea. He'll be our new chief lobbyist." That's you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. I don't understand it. I don't know what I don't know. Are the NRA board of directors allowing this to happen, or are they in the dark? I hope we find out this Saturday. And you know what? Let me go right into that. I had another story. It's not important. We already know the problems. And here's what separates Save the Second from everybody else. Save the Second is trying to be active in our NRA. We had to go out and make a foundation, or not a foundation, a nonprofit organization in order to be heard. You have so many directors that either empty chairs or are cheerleaders for LaPierre and everything he does, regardless of whether or not it's good or bad. Okay. So we're trying to influence our organization, and we've had to create a nonprofit entity in order to affect any change whatsoever. And of course, you can see our 5 goals on our website. Our 5 goals are what we think will help strengthen the NRA to its full potential. Now, of course, we can lead a horse to water. We can't make it drink. But there is something of a line in the sand that is coming this Saturday. The fall NRA Board of Directors meeting is coming. You'll remember we talked about it in last episode, where previously this board meeting, this NRA Board of Directors meeting, was scheduled to be in Anchorage, Alaska. Okay. We had made arrangements, such as several folks had, to be out there. Of course, the entire board of directors had plans to be out there, and apparently the NRA had an entire hotel booked, right? That's lots of money going to Anchorage, Alaska, right? So they moved it, and I think we found where they're going to meet. And that's another problem. Where are they meeting now? So you moved it to Virginia, but where? And of course, they had mentioned that, oh yeah, there's this. This was kind of the official reason, right? The official reason that the NRA moved it was there's anti-gun legislation that's coming, so we want everyone in Virginia instead of Anchorage. Well, I mean, that makes sense, with the exception that almost every person that's supposed to be at the board of directors meeting isn't a lobbyist. They won't be able to affect that change. They oversee the future of the organization, not the lobbying that goes on Capitol Hill. Okay. So, I mean, it's just a falsehood is what it is. I don't really know what the real reason was, but obviously anti-gun legislation isn't a good answer, because they have people in place that deal with that sort of thing. And it doesn't matter where the board of directors are. Matter of fact, the vast majority of board of directors, they're not seeing over day-to-day operations. They're not there. The board officers, I believe Willis Lee, who is the second vice president, is the only one that's commonly there. But of course, that's just hearsay. I don't know. There's so much that we don't know, and it's a very big problem. We don't know exactly where they're going to meet. It is speculated. It has been rumored. It hasn't been confirmed. We haven't been able to call up the office of the secretary and get information from that or for that. Hopefully we'll be able to tomorrow, which will be Monday. But currently, it appears that the NRA Board of Directors meeting will be at the Hilton Washington Dulles Hotel. Let's see if I can put that up for you. If you're watching, I'll have that on the screen. So if you want to copy that down, you can potentially join us. We'll get into that in just a second. But the address to the Hilton Dulles Airport is 13869 Park Center Road. That's in Herndon, Virginia, 20171, USA. Google is wonderful. Now, earlier this week in our Friends of Save the Second Facebook group, Steve had asked a question. Who can attend? Who can attend the board of directors meeting? Obviously, the board of directors, right? But now we have these bylaws here. These bylaws are what governs the NRA, right? And of course, like I said, you can go and see a copy of the bylaws either by calling the office of the secretary, who can send you a copy, or go to our website, which at Y-Reform, we have a copy that you can view right there, a PDF electronic version. Now, Article 3, Section 6, D of the NRA bylaws. And by the way, Section 6 of Article 3 is titled The Rights and Privileges of Members. Here's D. All members shall have the privilege to attend and be heard at all official meetings of the members, and shall have the right to attend all meetings of the board of directors, executive committee, and standing and special committees of the association, except during executive sessions thereof. So let's look at that just a little bit more. Shall have the right to attend all meetings of the board of directors, executive committee, blah, blah, blah. If you're a member of the NRA, regardless of how long, you have a right to attend, except when they go into executive session. Now, if you followed the NRA annual meeting, which this year in April, it was in Indianapolis, the meeting of the members got a little interesting. As a matter of fact, that's where I really started this want to make the NRA better. I spoke at the members meeting, and ironically enough, I spoke. Okay, this is going to sound really silly, but I spoke in favor of going into executive session. Now, my argument at that point, and frankly, I didn't understand what executive session meant. I thought executive session would mean that all of the media and extracurricular personnel that were there that weren't members of the NRA would be asked to leave. No, it means anybody like a member or someone who isn't invited by the board or a board member themselves, they have to leave. The board meeting, the day after the members meeting in Indianapolis, NRA annual meeting this year, that board meeting it was reported, it went for 9.5 hours. That's a long time to be in executive session. They went into executive session pronto, right then. I imagine that if you believe it's your right, of course, which it is, to attend all meetings of the members, or I'm sorry, all of the board of directors meetings, should you choose to do so, you're going to show up at the Hilton Dulles Airport Hotel, and you're going to be asked to wait outside, perhaps for 9 hours or better. It's a possibility. And frankly, I'm going. Okay, I have such a heart to see that the NRA gets fixed, and of course, Save the Second had a petition drive to amend the bylaws, which will create an attendance policy for the board of directors. That's been a big deal in the past. There's board members that have never shown up to a meeting. I kid you not. I'm not kidding. There are 76 board of directors, and there are several that haven't shown up. And matter of fact, we talked about it last week. Marion Hammer, who I just talked about receiving loans, personal loans from her nonprofit, which are potentially illegal. She had only shown up to one board meeting in the past 8 years, as far as we were aware, and that was this past meeting in Indianapolis. Will she be there? Curious. Very good question. Willis Lee, of course, who is the second vice president, I'm very, very certain that he'll be there. Of course, right now is the NRA Expo in Dallas, which is wrapping up, and Willis Lee was there earlier. So he's flying around on our dime. It's frustrating. I understand that the NRA has to spend money in certain cases. That's not a problem to me. The problem is the lack of accountability. Marion Hammer cannot be accountable by being unaccountable. Okay? So the lack of accountability is where I get riled up. I get very passionate. Now, if you are going to go to this random hotel by the Dulles Airport, of course, we're not advising you to be malicious or violent or cause a ruckus or anything like that. Yes, it's very important that we speak with our directors and tell them to fix our NRA. Ask them, plead with them. Get us out of all these lawsuits that are frivolous and ridiculous. Get us away from this terrible identity that the NRA has, which now, of course, this past week we found that the San Francisco board had labeled the NRA a terrorist organization. Goodness gracious. I'm not a terrorist. You're not a terrorist. The NRA are not terrorists. We know this, but yet there's this terrible stigma that's associated with the NRA, and currently they've done nothing but perpetuate that conflict, right? It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Now, granted, there are people out there that will demonize you just because you own a firearm. By God Almighty, I have an empty and clear handgun right here, which I was shooting the mess of, and I've got to clean here in just a little bit because it is filthy. But I'm no more a terrorist than any other gun-loving patriot in the United States, of course. The NRA hasn't educated people on that, and these stereotypes have perpetuated as a result of their inability to educate. Education is huge. Carry Guard, which was an absolute disaster and a money pit that we just threw money at, is an example of that. How were they educating people to be responsible gun owners? How are they educating citizens of the United States that the right of the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, is for all people, right? I'm sorry to go off on that tangent. It's so frustrating. Let's look a little bit more into this board meeting, what to expect, right? So we've covered that it's going to be in the Hilton in Dulles, just outside of Washington, Dulles Airport. Rumored to begin at 7:30. Okay, 7:30. Whether or not that's the case. Now, of course, they're being very quiet with this. They're not just blasting this all over the internet because, well, first of all, it's a board of directors meeting. It's not necessarily a members meeting, right? The meeting of the members is annually at NRA annual meeting, which, of course, will be this next year in Nashville. Mark your calendars, folks. That's going to be a big one. Trust me. But this is a board of directors meeting. So the board of directors, they're looking to get some stuff done, right? So beyond that, there are 37 standing committees. And my understanding is that all of these committees will be meeting during this week. As a matter of fact, there was a previous itinerary for Anchorage in which they listed when the finance committee would meet, the audit committee would meet. Funny enough, of the 37 committees, which, by the way, are listed in the bylaws, let's see if we can find that itinerary that was shared around because, of course, it was going to be in Anchorage, and there's a lot of stuff going on with these sort of meetings. And when you have 76 directors and 37 committees, and those are just the standing committees, those aren't the special committees. When you have committees such as action shooting, air gun, audit, black powder, bylaws and resolutions, clubs and associations, collegiate programs, competition rules and programs, disabled shooting sports, education and training, elections, ethics, finance, grassroots development, gun collectors, hearings, I'm not even halfway through. Okay, when you have that many, you do have to have some sort of itinerary. When are these committees being, where are they meeting? Who's going to them? What conflicts are there? So on. Now, these meetings that I had just listed for the itinerary in Anchorage, I believe those started or were to start on Tuesday. So I imagine that they will follow a similar pattern. They'll have these committee meetings happening all week long, leading up to Saturday, September 14th, which is when the board of directors meeting will be held. Interesting, the committees. Of course, we spoke, or rather, we reported earlier in July. Let me see if I can bring this up for you. There was a purge, as I called it, a purge of directors. Let me see if I can screen share, and I'll try to. Here we go. Oh, goodness, I have too much. Pardon me. Let me try this again. There was a purge of directors from their committee assignments. We reported or posted this article on July 6th, 2019. June 30th of 2019, then NRA Director Timothy Knight announced that he had been removed from all standing committees as a result of his, quote, publicly expressing concern over the current NRA leadership and spurious spending. Okay, just a few days later, July 5th, Director Alan West, also referred to, of course, as Colonel West announced that he too was removed from all committees. Now, that was an interesting one because West wrote an article on his website. Let's go to that real fast. He had written an article called the NRA, National Retaliation Association. So sure enough, in this particular post on his website, he shows us the letter that was given to him or sent to him from President of the NRA, Carolyn D. Meadows. Alan West had previously been the vice chairman of the, what was it? You had it written down here. The Outreach Committee. Removed from all of his committees. Just shortly thereafter, all of this, not only did Alan West, Timothy Knight, Esther Schneider all come out and publicly say that they had been removed from all of these committees, but so did Dwayne Liptek. Dwayne Liptek is the man behind Magpul. Okay, Magpul, pretty awesome. I've got Magpul magazines behind me. Sorry, this is not one of those. This is just a standard GI mag. But of course, Magpul is massive. And if Dwayne Liptek, who I think he referred to it as being put on the naughty list. Interestingly enough, Marion Hammer came back and said, no, it's not a naughty list. It's a failure to do right list or something absurd like that. So these directors that were removed from their committees will only be able to be effective in the actual board meeting on Saturday. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Saturday, September 14th is going to be just a very, very interesting day. Like I said, I'm going to be there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be flying out. Flying out. I have a real job. Okay, this is not a job. This is a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. My real job is with an airline, a major airline. And so I am going to be savvy and get myself to Washington Dulles on my own time and own expense and all that good stuff. Thankfully, it's not going to be out the wazoo. Many people, I'm sure, are going to be spending a lot of money to reschedule from Anchorage to Dulles. And of course, we just had the hurricane that came through on that East Coast, and it affected flights at Dulles. Thankfully, it wasn't terrible. But who knows? I'm hoping to get out to that area either on Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see. And if any of you decide that you are concerned about your NRA and would like to attend, again, it is your right. Unfortunately, they'll go into executive session and you'll just have to sit outside until it's over and you'll just scratch your head, what happened? I hope our board of directors that understand the significance of this meeting do something. Granted, I don't want them to resign. If you're a director and you're calling for an independent audit, or you're obviously critical of the financial malfeasance and corruption that are going on, do everything in your power. Absolutely everything in your power. Our NRA is worth that, at least. Now, there's a couple other factors that are going into this meeting. One of those, of course, is the board of directors received 90 subpoenas for current and former members. That was reported several weeks back, and that is within the ongoing investigation from the New York Attorney General, something James. I can't ever pronounce her first name. Very sorry, Lietta James, I believe. So the Attorney General for New York, has a investigation going on. Well, guess what? That investigation is dealing with these financial malfeasance and so on, which could potentially remove the tax-exempt status for the NRA. What happens when the tax-exempt status is gone? The NRA shrivels. The NRA will, first of all, have to pay massive fines. Massive, massive, massive fines. And they're already in the hole. No doubt about it. We were talking about that in the last episode, episode 2. Please go back and listen to that episode, because this is the situation. This is the current climate that our NRA is in. And what happens? Who knows? You have persons like Carolyn Meadows, Willis Lee, Joel Friedman, Carrie Lightfoot, and others who are still cheerleading for Wayne LaPierre. Why? Absolutely why. And of course, then you have Marion Hammer, who has apparently been stuffing her own pockets with member money, or at least being given a large amount of money to do what exactly? Take out loans, buy your children properties, real estate, and so on. Friends, it's so frustrating. Now, of course, we have awesome directors, like, of course, I mentioned Dwayne Liptek. Beyond that, Robert Brown, holy smokes, Soldier of Fortune, prior service Green Beret. Oh my goodness gracious! Now, of course, he's up in age, but God bless America. I respect that man so much, and any other Pineland operator, mind you. We've got great ones, and there's more. Of course, Alan West. Interesting thought. While Oliver North is currently engaged in a lawsuit from the NRA, the NRA is suing Oliver North. He has been reported to have denied a request from Secretary John Fraser to resign from the board of directors. Now, of course, he resigned from the presidency of the NRA. He did not resign from the board. I'm curious if he's going to show up on Saturday. Holy smokes. Can you imagine that room with Oliver North going into executive session? Oh, buddy, to be a fly on the wall. Holy smokes. Interesting time, folks. Interesting time. If you'd like to hang out with us while the doors are closed in executive session, and by the way, just to go into a little bit more about executive session. Executive sessions are generally closed discussions of a board of directors that may include invited attendees, such as an executive director or certain staff members. You know, they'll be able to give expert advice, legal counsel, of course. These sessions can occur at the end of a board meeting or separate from a board meeting if no formal actions are taken. The formal actions, per the parliamentary procedures, Robert's Rules of Order, would be in the meeting, a motion is made to go into executive session, someone else seconds the motion, and then they have to have a majority vote. Okay? Now, that majority vote is going to be kind of interesting too, because, well, a majority is based upon the amount of people there. If you have 76 directors, but only 25 shows up, well, obviously 25 is less than the majority of 76, so it's the amount that are there. That will be interesting to see and perhaps cause a certain amount of contention already. Just opening the doors to the meeting will be kind of interesting to see if fireworks start flying. Oh, buddy. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, folks, if you are concerned about your NRA, I would very much encourage you to try to be there, regardless if you're able to even sit in. Now, granted, if you go back and look at these bylaws, which again, I'm just reading, I'm not an expert, I could be mistaken. You know, I'm very much open to correction if I am mistaken. All members have the privilege to attend and be heard at the members meeting, right? At the meeting of the members. You just have the right to attend all meetings of the board of directors, executive committee, standing and special committees of the association, except in executive session. So during these meetings, we couldn't, you know, make a motion or point of order. We can only attend. But of course, attending is our right. And if I can speak to these directors before the meeting or after the meeting and implore them to solve these problems and make the NRA strong, relevant, effective, and accountable, by God, I'm just going to do that. Of course, I'll do so with as much courtesy as possible and respectful irreverence to Marion Hammer, Willis Lee, and so on. Definitely respect everything that they've done for our Second Amendment, but I do not respect the position which they have allowed the NRA to be in. It's unacceptable. You cannot be accountable by being unaccountable. So, folks, that's going to wrap this up. Before we wrap it up, read something that I just have to show you, folks. Julie Golub, competition shooter. She's currently out of Missouri. She was an Army Black Hatter. She was on the Army marksmanship unit for her enlistment. Amazing shooter. She's a champion shooter. No doubt about it. I was talking about her on the range yesterday and how she can shoot on the move, literally on the move, with such grace and get her hits that it's mind-blowing. And of course, I've always taught defensive shooters to get to cover, plant their feet, stop, and shoot, right? She shoots on the move with such grace and poise. And if you've ever seen any of the videos that Julie Golub has done, they're always fun. They're amazing. They're inspiring. I've always respected Miss Golub. Beyond that, of course, she resigned from the NRA board a few weeks back. I was very sad about that. I understand, of course, that the NRA board is very much a thankless job, and you got guys like me that are going up to all these directors saying, fix it, fix it, fix it. We get heated, and of course, in many cases, it's not the fault of these directors. Nevertheless, Julie Gollop resigned. And yesterday, after I got home from the range, I saw a post by Ms. Gollop. I'll share it with you. She says, I have something we are ready to share. To start with happy news, best wishes to everyone participating in the USPSA Area 5 Championships this weekend. I wish I could be there to sling lead at paper and steel too, but I'll be hoping you all have a safe, fun time. That's already sad. I mean, she is just destroyed that Area 5 Championships in the past, and USPSA, I love watching her shoot. Unfortunately, I'll skip it down to a little bit. Their 11-year-old Munchkin was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. Dude, this... my kids are outside right now. Sorry. My kids are outside right now. I have an 11-year-old. 11-year-old daughter, which, by the way, I've got a pink cricket of hers and 22 long rifle bolt action single shot that she likes to shoot. I've got a Ruger SR22 that she likes to shoot. My daughter, my 11-year-old, I love her to death. My son, 7 years old, folks, please say a prayer for Miss Gollop and her Munchkin and her family. Like I said earlier, we at Save the Second, we're all volunteers. Like I said, my kids are outside right now. I'm going to go play with them here in just a second. We're going to have a great Sunday afternoon. Anthony Garcia, our Save the Second president, awesome friend of mine. He's being a dad right now, and I love it. Rob Pincus, if you've seen some of his personal stuff on his Instagram stuff, he's got toddler Pincus, cutest darn thing in the world. Andy Lander's got kids as well. And we're all family members. And buddy, hug your kids, hug your spouses, hug your mom, hug your dad. We get worked up on this sort of thing, and our rights are exceptionally important, tremendously important. That's one of the reasons why I'm fighting, so that my kids grow up to enjoy the same freedoms that I have right now, and hopefully more so. Freedom is awesome. Family is so important. So, sorry for that, folks. Sorry for that. Ms. Gollop, love you to death. Hopefully I'll get to shake your hand again at another annual meeting and give your Munchkin a high five. Thank you very much for listening. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook, which many of you are watching right now, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You can find this. Oh my goodness. I have to stop for just a second. A good friend of mine just joined in the chat just a few minutes ago. Jim Savage. Mr. Savage, I look forward to shaking your hand the next time I'm in the Northwest, man. You're amazing. I love you to death. But I'm wrapping this up, right? And I'm still solo, which I don't fault my colleagues for being unable to attend. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I hope you will all join with us in calling for a strong, relevant, effective, accountable NRA. Mr. Savage, keep up the good stuff with the We Like Shooting guys. Love it, man. I really, really do love it. And of course, we're on iTunes now as well. We're not as amazing as the Firearms Radio Network folks, which I look up to dearly and tremendously. Oh man, yeah, and Jim Savage. Oh, you guys will love this. Sorry, Jim says, "You too, buddy. You're the only guy in the group I could beat at arm wrestling." That's absolutely right. The last time that he was in town, he beat me in an arm wrestling match or competition. I don't know, but come on, these That's why I have firearms, man. I'm a small guy. but no, thank you so much for watching. You can check out this podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. Of course, our website is where you can find more information about us, SaveThe2A.org, Save the Second. That's save the number 2A.org. All of us, Save the Second, are volunteers. And for those of you who have believed in our cause and thought to donate to us, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Currently, I'm doing stuff like this out of my own pocket so that we can make the annual members meeting awesome. And from all of us here at Save the Second, thank you. Contact your NRA board of directors, and please go love on your families while this beautiful Sunday afternoon is still in the daylight. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.